Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm joined by my colleague James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Doing all right. It's quite cold here in Glasgow, but I'm just about wrapped up warm enough. How are you getting on?
It's freezing for here. It's freezing for here. That's what I've got the hoodie on, heating on, etc., etc. Stuffing my face with chocolate digestives to make myself feel better. How was the Partick Thistle game? You were there on Saturday, weren't you?
I didn't go in the end.
Oh,
No.
did you not go to Morton?
No, I didn't. I ended up just watching it on the telly, and I'm glad that I did that, to be honest, because it looked like an absolute honking game from what I could tell from my very dodgy stream. It wasn't great, and yeah, 1-0, we'll take that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Partick Thistle. Sadly,
No, we're not.
As much as I'd love to, and you won't get me to stop if we do. So we should maybe pivot back to Bacters and Gorgie, I suppose.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we've kind of just going to talk over with no action from the weekend, just the latest from around Hearts. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in the news as well about Lawrence Shankland's contract. We obviously signed Dexter Lembikisa on Friday. I think it was confirmed Friday afternoon, Friday evening, from Wolves on a loan deal until the end of the season, following after he got recalled from his loan spell at Rotherham United. Hearts played a bounce game today against Kilmarnock 1-2-1, so we'll talk a wee bit about that. I wasn't there. I just got just found out the information that would be of interest to Hearts fans regarding it, and we'll kind of maybe talk about the transfer window in general for Hearts. But we may as well start off with the bounce game because that happened today. It's fresh. I think a lot of people have got an interest in that. It was so. A big thing was Hearts didn't go away for pre-season. The winter break. So to see some clubs have gone for a warm weather training camp. Look at Hibs, they've gone to Dubai. I think Rangers are in Spain.
They're away somewhere, right?
Yeah, away somewhere. But Naismith talked about that at the end of the winter, before the winter break it's been quite an intense period of games up until that point. You looked at between the end of November and the start of January, what was it, like 9, 10, 11 games, whatever it was. That's quite a lot. And then you're coming back and got Spartans. There's going to be a couple of midweek games in the first few weeks back. I got the Spartans game on Saturday, followed by Dundee, then Aberdeen, then Dundee, and then I think it's a midweek game against St Johnstone as well. So again, it's going to be another quite hectic period. So the decision was taken not to go away. Players got a wee bit extra time off. I think a lot of the Hearts boys went to Dubai. A couple went to New York as well. So I think it was important to get players refreshed and then come back and get back into it and build up into the weekend's game. And that involved a game against Kilmarnock. I think the big talking points, Craig Gordon played 45 minutes. Him and Xander Clark had 45 minutes each. And then other than that, the big one for me was Benny Beningame getting back to getting some game time, because obviously when we left, he had missed the previous 2 games. I think there was kind of mixture of fatigue and a slight feeling in his leg, but those are probably kind of the standouts in terms of Gordon and Benny both playing.
Probably. To us, the other one as well that kind of caught my eye was is it Adam Forrester?
Adam Forrester, yeah.
Yeah. He got, I think it was 45 minutes he got, didn't he?
Yeah, so he was involved. I think it would have been him because the Lembikisa got 45 minutes. So yeah, they would have swapped swap roles. Because that was the big thing. It's like you're looking at the squad that played. I think it was essentially near enough 2 different 11s each half.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense, because you do think that, particularly with these next few weeks when Hearts are back in action, first for the Cup, then the league games, as you said, there's a few midweek ones as well. There's that postponed game against Dundee, so there will be quite a few games coming up in quite a short space of time. And obviously Atkinson and Rose aren't going to be there for them, so there is going to have to be another option at right wing back. Obviously we've seen Civic there, we've seen Forrest there. Forrest is probably not his best position. Civic just hasn't really convinced there, and so it is good to see another player getting game time. Obviously we'll go on to speak about is it Lembikisa? Is that how you pronounce it?
Lembikisa. I'm going Lembikisa. I'll find that out before.
Right, I'll stick with that for now.
Yeah.
But the new lad on loan from Wolves. Obviously, he's coming to the end of the season. He'll have to, you'd imagine, plug that gap in the short term, at least until Atkinson comes back. So it's good to see him get minutes. But I think, from a kind of youth development perspective, it's nice to see guys like Forrester getting into the team and getting given a chance, because we know that he was on the bench at Ibrox, I think it was, earlier in the season, and I'm sure he was on the bench maybe at Hampden, or maybe it was just Hampden. It was definitely one of the Rangers games. And
it was the Hampden game.
He didn't get on, obviously, but the fact that he's getting involved in these games in pre-season, the fact that he's been in the senior squad, he's been around on match days, that would suggest to me that he's pretty close, I think, to making that step up to the senior team. And okay, it might just be coming on for the last 20 minutes of games here, or maybe gets like a chunk against Spartans or something like that. But the fact that like Macaulay Tate and like Aidan Denham, these young guys are now starting to get little opportunities. And okay, it's in a pre-season game, yes, it's a bounce game, but you do think that, particularly, as I say, the next month or so, while Atkinson's away, there is going to be that there is going to be competition there. Obviously, we've got the new guy who's coming in on loan. He's still having to adjust to the team. He's still having to adjust to the league. So you look at it and you go, well, Forrester could well end up playing getting to like a serious amount of minutes between, maybe not a serious amount of minutes, but he could get a good chunk of minutes anyway between now and mid-February when Atkinson gets back. And that can probably only be a good thing, I think, for the player himself. And you'd like to think it'd only be a good thing as well for others in the B team, who can then see players making that progression, which we've talked about. It's really important that you've got examples of people making that step up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the big thing coming into the second half of the season. I know Joe Savage spoke about it at the AGM. Stephen Naismith talked about with him in terms of the squad size, that they want to create that a bit more space within the squad for the guys from the B team academy to be more involved. And you're right. I think some fans maybe rightly go, why bother signing Lembikisa if there's Forrester there and he's highly rated. But I think you'd probably be leaving yourself a wee bit short if you or putting a lot of pressure on Forrester if you were to go, right, this is what Atkinson's away, got the next 6 games, and well, that is an opportunity. At the same time, you don't want to overwhelm. Don't want to overwhelm Forrester, especially if he comes in. Naturally, for young players, if they might struggle defensively, then they might need to be taken out, and then you're just back to where you were before with Forrester Civic. So I do think it was important to bring in another right wing back or right back option, but I don't think that means that Forrester won't not get a chance. So he'll still be around the first team. He'll still be around the squad. So yeah, that's it's probably good for him to score a goal as well, because again, being involved in the first team, and that'll be a big one helping him. He wasn't the only youngster that was involved. I think it was let me get the count spot on. Jambo Academy 51 on Twitter. He detailed all the youngsters who were involved. So it was Macaulay Tate, James Wilson, Luke Rafferty, Ethan Drysdale were involved as well. Again, players like Drysdale, Tate, Wilson, very highly rated teenagers. They got involved, as did Finlay Pollock as well. He noticed watched him play against Edinburgh University in the B team when Hearts won 12-0 a couple of Fridays ago. He got brought on at half time and he impressed. He looks like he's missed a lot of football, so he's still got probably catching up to do, but he's very highly rated, and it's clear that he's worked on his physique while his time was out, and that's another big thing that I think you look down south. Scotland's maybe a wee bit behind England in that athleticism and physique, whereas Finlay Pollock really looked like he'd worked on that in a good way. So I think that was important for him to be involved. Who else was involved? Craig Halkett got 60 minutes, which was important. Shankland was involved as well. Grant wasn't involved, but encouragingly, I understand he's going to be back in first team training tomorrow, full training tomorrow, which is good. So even if it's too soon for the Spartans game, he should be around and potentially involved in the next few league games after that.
Yeah, no, it looks that way, and I think, to us, the next 6 months are going to be really quite big for George Grant. Like, I know his contract's not up for, I think he's got 18 months left in his deal at the moment, so he's still got a while to go, but you do look at it and you wonder, if he's not getting enough minutes, he might fancy a move elsewhere. I mean, he's 29 now, I think. Obviously, he's approaching a point in a career where he's just going to be wanting to be playing as much as possible, getting as many minutes as he can. And he's a player who's, he's had a strange career at Hearts so far because he's found himself in a team, and even this season, it looked like he was going to be leaving in the summer there. He stays around, he gets his chance, and to be honest, I think he's probably taken his chance quite well whenever he has been given it. There's times where he's been ahead of Lowry in the team on merit, and I think that Lowry is probably signed to be a first team regular as well. So I think that he's an interesting player because I think that there's definitely a good player in there, and you can see that he's certainly got like the technical ability to play in a Hearts team and to be a big part of it. I think it's just about getting that more consistently, which, to be fair, I think we were seeing that over the last couple of months, and then obviously picked up that knock, and then that's kept him out the team for a wee while. So I do think there is a good player in there for him, but I do think he's also approaching a bit of a crossroads with this between now and the end of the season, where if he plays well and he's able to be effective and get involved in games and do the things that we know he can do, then he might well find himself as quite a senior player at Hearts next season. If he struggles for game time, if he doesn't take his opportunities, then he might well be off in the summer. So he's a player he's definitely one to watch, but we know that Lowry's away in the summer. So that is going to open up gaps in that position anyway. Obviously, we know that the Hearts are interested in trying to get Jan Danda to fill one of those gaps. That'd be a pretty good replacement. But again, if Grant doesn't quite reach that same level of consistency that he was showing right before his injury, then it wouldn't be surprised if he moved on in the summer, and then you need to bring in yet another playmaker on top of that as well.
Yeah. There's especially he's in a position centre midfield where there is a lot of options, and you do look at it and you wonder if there's Hearts might need a different profile in there maybe this summer with someone who's more back to front or box to box, which I think Scott and I spoke about it on Friday, and I just think Hearts fans generally and naturally like those box to box players who can get about the pitch and who will go for it. Colin Cameron, Paul Hartley for one. We come up with kind of talismanic midfielders, but like you, and as the Sources Networker says, I like George, and I think he's so I do. I like him as well. I think he's a good player. I just think he's maybe not put the numbers up that I thought he was going to be just because of his goal scoring form in England, which I think attracted him to Hearts. I think there's been a lot of moments during his Hearts career so far where you thought maybe he was ready to kick on, and then something's happened, or he's got an opportunity, he's maybe not taking it. But you look at the Zurich game where he'd just been signed, and he attempted to win a penalty by going down in the box. Some people could call it a dive, probably was, and he got booked, sent off, and it kind of just changed. And then he was out of the team for a wee bit, and then it kind of just maybe changed that trajectory. So he had to work hard. He got sent off again. So he's just had these moments where it's probably be frustrating. It's probably if he was to sum up his time at Hearts, I would wonder if he would call it frustrating. And you add in the Celtic game, he was brilliant, and you just thought that's brilliant. You'd expect him to be heavily involved in the next few games, and then he gets an injury, and we've not seen it. He missed the end of the first half of the season. But yeah, he's a really talented player. I think at times he's maybe been moved around, and which has probably not helped with his consistency, because I looked at him before signing, or when Hearts did sign him, and he had some good seasons in England where he scored a lot of goals, and he seemed to be playing off the left, off a kind of front three, or he was a bit more attack minded. At Hearts, he's probably played a wee bit deeper.
Yeah. No, he definitely has, but I think one of the things I would say though is, yeah, you're right, in terms of like goals, assists, yeah, those numbers aren't there. But for data nerds like me, I would say that some of his underlying numbers are really good. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly, but things like his passing accuracy in the final third, his expected assists from open play, and I think his accuracy at set pieces is quite good as well whenever he has hit them. So there are definitely there are things that he's doing right and things that he's getting well. But you're right, yeah, he's just not really producing those hard numbers. But then I think if you look around the entire Hearts squad, there's only one man I think this season can look at his goals and assists column and be quite happy with it, and that's Lawrence Shankland.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen. I think it was Graham who often listens to these YouTubes or briefings. I think he put up a tweet over the weekend where it was like just like the team's individual goal scoring, and it's when you see it written down when you've got Lawrence Shankland at 18, and then it goes to 3-3, 2-2,
Well, yeah, because
etc.
just thinking off the top of my head, the squad, there'll be a couple of squad players that have played about 18, 19, 20 games this season. And yeah, you're right. They can't have scored any more than a couple or assisted any more than a couple. So, it's been quite slim pickings in that regard. But I guess sort of a positive, though, would be the fact that we're now, halfway through the window. And I would argue that Lawrence Shankland stuff is dying down a bit, or maybe I'm not seeing it properly. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but it doesn't seem as if like the speculation's quite as rampant as it was going back 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. There's a lot of chat around Shankland. I think it's widely reported that Hearts have started talks with Shankland, and it's one of these things that I think could take time to come to an agreement on, in terms of if there's a new deal in place, because it's never, with contract discussions, it's never straightforward. There is always a bit of to and froing, and it's one where you just wonder if teams will be wanting to pay what. Again, we've talked about it plenty, so there's not too much to kind of add to it, but it's that balance between what Hearts want and what teams are willing to pay. And I think I've been on record before, is that my gut feeling is that you'll extend, but then it might be sold in the summer if there's an extension place, and then they put in a reasonable kind of release clause. But you're just wondering who are the teams that would want him. I know there's been links to, certainly at the start of the window, there's been a lot of links to teams down south. But as you've seen, you look at players in both in the Championship and the Premier League, and there's such a importance on athleticism and power and pace, and you can look at a number of ways, and it's just made the game it's just made the game a lot quicker. But at the same time, you're thinking there's this guy who's just a brilliant goal scorer, because you look at, see if it was you're looking probably 10, 15, definitely like 20 years ago, this guy would be so highly valued, because he puts the ball in the back of the net, and there's just been so much more emphasis, especially down south, on being able to run.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at so look at someone like Stevie May, for instance. When he had that first season at St Johnstone, was brilliant, scored all sorts. He scored 20 odd goals or something like that. Guess has moved down south. He just kind of falls off the radar for a couple of years, comes back up to Scotland, and he's about 4 stone heavier, and he's absolutely covered in muscle. And it's like, all right, great, but he can't run anymore, and that was one of the things that made him great. See, I think you see it a lot with Scottish players when they go down south, particularly to like English Championship teams, so they just kind of bulk up because that's what's required to play there. And then, but even if that's to the detriment of their own talent, or what they can already do. So I agree with that point. I think the other one as well, of course, is just the fact that it would be a gamble moving to England, I think, at this mid-season, at this stage of his career, and with the Euros on the horizon, I think it'd be a crazy gamble to make from Shankland's perspective.
That's something that's, I think that's the source network says here. It kind of depends on what Shanks wants, but he goes nowhere if we say no sale. And it's Hearts are in a really positive position, because we've got him under contract for 18 months, so there's no need to sell, and there's won't be any desire to sell, because, like you said in your piece you wrote about him recently, this is the last season where a third place or whoever wins the Scottish Cup is guaranteed European football entry. So that's a big one. And then you add in the Scotland aspect of it. This is a player who's going to be doing all he can to make sure he's in the Scotland squad come the summer. And so far, you think he's made a very, very, very good case, and he really should be in Steve Clarke's squad. If the squad was announced tomorrow, you'd have to think he would be in the squad. And they just like that upheaval. If he was going to I think it's a big move. I'd say a big risk, because you'd imagine he would back his quality and back himself to go there. But there's so many factors and variables involved in a transfer window that, in terms of like just changing team, or it might be a different style, and you might be asked to do different things. There's off-field factors that it's always not a big risk, but there's factors that he needs to consider where it would be like he have to weigh up. Whereas if he's staying at Hearts, he's going to be playing every week. He's likely going to be scoring the vast majority of goals, and he's always going to be in the headlines and right there for Steve Clarke to see.
No, absolutely. That's basically how I feel about it. Is the fact that like things are going very, very well for Shankland on a personal level just now, and I would think that with this tournament, which for him is a once in a lifetime opportunity, that this is it. This is his one chance. And I guess I don't know why you'd want to rock the boat in that instance. Again, especially if it's just if you've got an eye on a move in the summer, fine. Just do the 5 months or whatever it is. Get Hearts into third, score your goals, get yourself onto the plane to Germany, and then sail off into the sunset, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, and so there's two aspects. I feel for him in that this is going back to the point I made earlier. I feel for him. This is a guy's like, he could just say to anyone, like, I can guarantee you goals, and then folk are like, not sure I'm going to pay for you because we want pace and just running power, which is. It's unfortunate in a way that's the way the game's gone, and in terms of kind of priority for especially kind of down south, and you wonder if it'd be better suited to European football, maybe if you wanted to have another go at European football. But yeah, it's so like we says, yes, like there's a big thing to consider. Shanks has everything he needs with us, and I suppose he'd probably want a contract that he thinks is more deserving of his importance, his quality to the team, but he is on his way to becoming a club legend. And then also has a factor in, he might wonder if it comes into his consideration that if he does well this second half of the season, gets into the Scotland squad, and then gets his chance and performs really well at Euro 2024, that opens up even more doors for him potentially.
No, exactly. Like how many times do we see it constantly after big tournaments that players who catch the eye and do well earn their move. Like that consistently happens, and there's no reason that Shankland couldn't be one of those players. Absolutely, so yeah, that is absolutely. I think that's definitely a part of it. And again, just playing. If you're scoring at a European Championships and performing well at that level, all of a sudden teams that are maybe going, but he can't run, or he's not, this big battering ram up front. If you're doing it against like some of the best defenders in Europe, at that point that's maybe enough to assuage those concerns. I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think that definitely delighted to see him still here. Hopefully he does stick around. I think it's good for everyone if he does.
And we'll move on to Dexter Lembikisa, the new right back. I've watched him. James, what would you like to know? What would you like to know about him?
Well, what's he like? I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I've never seen the guy play. You have to tell us the story.
He is very fast. I watched clips of him when he played for. I watched clips of him when he played with Wolves. So he played twice against Liverpool in the FA Cup. The first game was at Anfield, and he came up against Andy Robertson, and he did really well. He's got loads of pace. There was one moment I think it was in the first half of the match, where he was about 10, 12 yards inside his own half, and the ball went into, I think the kind of winger dropped off, and the ball went into him, and 6 seconds later he was on the edge of the Liverpool box. So he can eat up ground really, really quickly. And one thing I really, really liked about him, aside from the pace, because one thing I think Hearts fans would like to see more in the squad in general is pace. But one thing I really liked about him, his attitude towards the defending, in that he will really want to engage with a winger. He'll look to close them down really, really quickly, and he's got a good. He's good in 1v1 situations. Again, his pace helps that, and he's able to move, kind of turn and move really well. And the stats from what I've seen is that he's favoured or showed them in a good light compared to Atkinson in terms of kind of defensive duels. So that's encouraging. I think he's had a tough time at Rotherham I think he's reading reports from down south and then watching some of his games from when he was with Rotherham. I think he started really well and he injected a bit of energy into Rotherham team. But this is a Rotherham team that are bottom of the Championship. The last time I looked at the bottom of the Championship, I don't know if it's changed over the weekend, but he is. I'm just going to look just now. English Championship. Yeah, they're still bottom, like 8 points off safety, and they're not a great team. So you looked at him, I kind of felt from, and I wonder if it just eroded his confidence, because that was his first time playing regular first team football, having been on the periphery of the Wolves side. So he went there on loan, got plenty of minutes, got a lot of game time, which is important for Hearts because he's a player who can come in and just hit the ground running. So he's had that experience of the Championship where it's a bit of a grind. Scotland shouldn't be that much of a shock to him. I think you might find in possession he might not get as much time, which I think is always an eye opener for players coming into Scotland. But the fact he's had that game time is important. Defensively, what I saw, he didn't make any like egregious errors, but I do think there's a mixture of confidence, but also just being a young defender as part of a really struggling team, part of a team that have conceded a lot of goals, and just almost like I wonder if it just made him kind of second guess himself, and if he wanted to make the same runs he would do in an attacking team. And that's a big thing. He's coming from a team who had the lowest average possession in the Championship, under 40%, to a team who have got the third highest in the Scottish Premiership. So he's going to see a lot more of the ball. He's going to be able to be a bit more on the front foot. And Stephen Naismith did note on the signing that he's an attacking player as well. So I think it'll be a good move for him, potentially for Hearts as well, in that he'll want to be on the front foot, which is good. But he's also used to playing as a back, right back in a back four, or as a wing back. So there's that versatility, which is really important for Hearts as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. We know that Naismith likes to change stuff game to game, minute to minute. Sometimes, like that's just part and parcel of playing for Hearts these days. So that's the thing that's really stood out for me there is the fact that he's pacey, because we know that at times Hearts, even when they're playing the back five or the back three in the wing backs, it can get a bit lopsided where Cochrane doesn't get quite as advanced as whoever's on the right hand side. So I think that having someone with pace is able to get up and down that wing can be really important, especially like you say, if it's someone who's got those attacking instincts to try and take on his fullback or try and get in behind and stretch things. That's probably something that has been lacking at times this season, I think. I guess for me though, the biggest thing is I'd like to see is like what's he like on the ball. Like you say, we've not really had a chance to see that yet, because at Rotherham he's playing for a team that are not very good and they don't see any of the ball. But whereas at Hearts, he's going to see a lot more of it, particularly just because the team see more of the ball, but also just with the way the wing backs play in this Hearts team, they get on the ball and they're trusted with using it well. That might mean taking it in tight areas and shifting it on, drawing the man. It might mean a big crossfield ball over to the other side. These are the things that, in order to really excel at that role and get the most out of the team, you need to be doing. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on from that kind of perspective, because I actually think defensively, if he's got that pace and then just the whole kind of defensive structure in general Hearts, that should be okay, touch wood. But it's the other side of the game. It's, okay, when you're on the ball, you're going to be a lot more is going to be asked of you at Hearts than it is at Rotherham. And that's going to be probably what will define his loan spell as either a success or a failure, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, because the defensive side of the games where he had some issues certainly towards the end of his loan. Like I said, there's not glaring errors, but I'm confident that he will improve and impress, because you'll have someone like Frankie Kent behind him or to his side, someone like Craig Halkett, so an experienced defender who's going to talk him through the game. I think that's really, really important, especially someone coming up first day of Scottish football, having someone to be able to communicate with them and talk them through the game. So I've got no real issue or concern about that. Not really wary. I think that'll be fine. The biggest question mark, Will, is that possession. And at times when I watched him, I thought he was a wee bit loose, a wee bit rushed with possession. Stats wise, it was average. His passing accuracy not the greatest. I think it was under 70%, not the greatest, but was around the same as Atkinson this season from what I saw. So I do think he'll probably need to sharpen up or tidy up his passing in Scotland. I think that will be one of the biggest question marks, but he'll definitely provide an option. He'll get forward and he'll make sure that his teammates have. He's making himself available for them. And another big thing is that with him being at Hearts, being on the ball, there should be more options available to him than, for example, at Rotherham or like Wolves at Anfield. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. And if he can adapt to that side of things, well, coming under pressure a lot in Scottish football, then he should be a successful loan sign. Again, this is he'll likely play a lot of minutes over the next couple of weeks until Atkinson's back, and then it just means there's competition at right back, right wing back, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that Naismith speaks a lot about that. Every manager does. They all like competition. They don't like just somebody just going, "Oh, I'm going to play right back this week. I can coast in training." Nobody likes that. They can see why they don't like it. So, yeah, I think that it's certainly something that it won't do any harm. And again, with Forrester as well, also providing that little extra edge of competition as well. Hopefully, we get to see him get some minutes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we finish up, there's not really been much else happening on the transfer front. Stephen Naismith has been quite vocal and kind of reiterated again to the Even News piece that Barry Anderson did this morning that there's not a lot of desire to add any more players. I think he's quite this window. I think he's quite happy with the squad as it is, and it's only if something comes available that will like improve the team, or it's something that the club will really like. I think that's what will happen. But it'll be more about kind of future proofing for this summer, like we've seen with Hearts' interest in Jan Danda. Other than that, I think it's more about potentially players moving on, opening some space up for the academy. Obviously, if certain things happen, then Hearts might need to dip back into the transfer market. But I think the squad's in a good place that, unlike other teams within the Scottish Premiership, there's not a desperation. And I think that's sometimes what harms teams, and teams start getting desperate in January. Hearts are not in that position. Good squad, especially if people get back from injury over the next few weeks. As Source Network are asked, does anyone know what the score with Cammy Devlin is? It was expected that he'd be out until after the winter break. So you've still got Devlin to come back. Hopefully he won't be back that long after the return. Liam Boyce, Barry Mackay as well. And it just provides more and more options. Obviously, Rowles and Atkinson coming back. But yeah, I think the squad is in a decent place.
So what you're saying is that basically that we know fun, exciting, sexy new names coming in, and the rest of the window is now just about let's keep a hold of Shankland.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's the main thing. Keep Shankland until the window closes, and I think that would be, if you keep Shankland and have brought in a right wing back, that is a really positive window. That's what Hearts needed to do.
I think if you offered most fans that on January 1st, said at the end of it, Shankland's still here and you've got another right wing back, I think most would have snapped your hand off, to be honest. That's not another couple of players wouldn't go amiss. They're always nice. Everyone always likes a signing, but you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where if the right player became available, that'd be great. But looking around the squad, there's nowhere it's in need of like major overhaul. There's not any urgency there. There is a good squad of players there now that there's a right wing back in there, there's not too many gaps in the squad. Although still, signing a number 6. There needs to be another number 6. Benny can't do it all, and no one else can do it. You need to sign somebody else.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That is what that's us for today. I've just seen that the news reported that Lawrence Shankland has been offered a new contract by the club, and I can confirm I think that is in fact the case. So again, that was the expectation was that Hearts would offer him a new deal, and that was always going to be the case. But we'll leave it there. James, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We will be back either Wednesday or Thursday ahead of the Spartan Games on Saturday. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.